Also, everybody online, you should be able to hear me soon. And Don, I'd like to introduce our staff here. Don Daly, who just gave our instructions for our Troxler ASE here. And Don, if you would just briefly introduce yourself and your job duties. Yep.
So my name is Don Daly. I'm an agricultural program specialist with the North Carolina Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services Structural Pest Control section. My primary focus is training, outreach, and communication. I handle all CCU transcripts for all 8,600 applicators in the state of North Carolina on the structural side, as well as all courses for credit. I oversee the in-house equivalency program for RT schools. I maintain the division's website. I do a bunch of different things for the division as needed.
Thank you, Don. And my name is Victor Lennon. I'm the Deputy Director of the Structural Pest Control Program. And I'd like to thank Don for setting up this online seminar. Also, David Proposio, one of our specialists. And I'd like to thank Josh Shepard in the back he's our IT guru here at the Troxler ASC for setting it up. David Handel, if you want to briefly, you good? Come on. Wow, David's being shy. I'm shocked. But yeah, David's coming. He handles our license and certification exam efforts. So many of you probably have dealt with David over the years and dealing with license exams and CA exams. But he will speak. We have a slide concerning CA exam revisions. Also, we have some staff members here. If y'all briefly introduce yourself, starting with Kelly. Miss Laura. Rebecca. At least 5. And Pat, Mr. Farquhar. Cool deal. Dylan. Yes. And Josh, I think Josh Pierce is another structural inspector in Eastern North Carolina. He stepped out. So again, if you would please hold your questions till the end. We'll have plenty of time for questions. And you folks online, if you can submit it through the chat. And we're getting ready to get started with the presentation. But again, thanks y'all for being here. And please, any questions that you may have, feel free to ask. And if we're not able to answer them during the presentation, grab us afterwards. So we'll be here all day. So with all that, we're ready to get started with the presentation. Then I'll also introduce Richard Willis. Richard's going to be giving a majority of our presentation. Richard's our Eastern Field Manager. And so I assume everybody online can hear okay. If you'll give us a thumbs up. Josh says we're good to go. All right. Well, let's see here. Good, if you said. Ah. Oh, whoops. My bad. Okay. I can't get the. Do I need to aim this? Sorry, y'all hold on, please. A minor technical difficulty. Yeah. Okay, we're good with the chats. Thank y'all for letting us know. Try it now. Okay. All right. So what I'd like to do first is to give a brief update of our structural pest control staff. We've had some changes the last couple years, and but this is our territory map. Again, I just introduced Richard Willis. Richard's our Eastern Field Manager, and he's based out of Wilmington, North Carolina. We do have a couple of inspector vacancies in Eastern North Carolina for right here, the orange area, Dean Wade, many of you may remember Dean was our inspector for Johnson County, Fayetteville area. Dean has moved on to the pesticide section, so that area is now vacant. Also, the yellow area, the Wilmington area on the coast, southeastern counties, Bowman Gray retired, so that area is vacant. So we are hopeful to fill these positions in the future. In Western North Carolina, also introduced, I think Roger Bryan is online. Roger's our Western field manager. We do have one vacancy in the Winston-Salem area, this purple area here. And again, hopefully we can fill those positions soon. And we just introduced all of our headquarters staff. And we do have, it says Rebecca Kalashek. That position is vacant, and we want to thank Rebecca again for filling in last year or so. But Rebecca's now our EPA liaison. And Kelly just introduced herself. Heather Lewis also processes renewals. Renewals have, I like to add, have been mailed out. So hopefully you all have received your renewal packets. If for whatever reason, if you're a licensee or a non-commercial CA or a CA, you should, your renewal should have come with the license renewal. If you have not received those, please let us know before you leave. That would be a good time. As you know, our fiscal year runs July 1 to June 30th. So we would hope everybody would send those in as soon as possible. However, you do have until June 30th to postmark. We also recommend FedEx or UPS so you can track it to make sure if you do mail it in. But if you have any questions about your renewals, again, please let us know. And Laura would like to add something. Yep. Thank you, Laura. For those of you online, Laura just mentioned if you have questions about your credits, please do not call. It's a busy time of the year, as you can imagine, for our staff. But there was information in your renewal packet, and you can search that online, or worst case, send an email to somebody. But we would prefer that you don't call about credits. As you can imagine, especially, some companies might have 15, 20 CAs or licensees, and our staff's trying to process renewals with the checks and everything. It would just be better if you could look that up online or send us an email. We'd appreciate that. Thank you, Laura. Okay, let's see. There's a little delay. Make sure I'm working this right. There we go. Okay, so why are we here? I'd like to start out by explaining that this all began in 2017, believe it or not. EPA required all states who have a cooperative agreement to revise their respective certification and training plans beginning back in 2017. So that's pretty much every state across the country. So it's not just North Carolina. It's not just the state requiring PMPs in North Carolina. This was nationally, and every state that has a cooperative agreement with EPA will have a C&T plan, and that's based on FIFRA and the C&T plan requirements. So states, we began working with our Region 4 EPA staff. That's based out of Atlanta, and the legal team there to go over the C&T plan revision. So we had a C&T plan in place for many years, but we had to revise that. I would like to also add, this is for all pesticide applicators as well. It's not just structural. It's for the pesticide section, for any landscapers, farmers, those type of applicators as well. And so it's been a team effort really for our division for pesticides and structural, beginning with our C&T staff. We began working with the NCPMA, North Carolina Pest Management Association as well. We'd like to thank everybody over the years who worked with us from NCPMA. And then we'd also go before the Structural Pest Control Committee for information and for approval of the plan and the subsequent rules revisions that, of course, came along with our C&T plan being approved. So the revised C&T plan was eventually sent to EPA headquarters based out of DC. So we began work with our regional staff in Atlanta, EPA staff. Then it goes to headquarters and legal staff for final review, dialogue, and more revisions. So you can imagine it was quite a process, right? Because, of course, we had to have our attorney to give us guidance with our Department of Agriculture. We dealt with attorneys in Regional 4 and then also attorneys at the national level. And so that's one reason, it took began in 2017. There was just a lot of dialogue, but a lot of good teamwork, and we appreciate everybody's efforts. There's a little bit of a delay on the slide, so I'll try not to get too off track. There we go. Okay, so our division received final approval from EPA headquarters for our approved certification plan back in July of 2023. So our John Figgins is not here, so I know John was very excited about that. John's our C&T manager who also put in a lot of work for pesticides and structural. So then that began the rules review process. So basically there's 3 phases that began in 2017. Our C&T plan was approved in 2023. So then we began the rules review process, and from 24 to 25. And again, there was dialogue with the NCPMA, also a lot of guidance and approval from our Structural Pest Control Committee. And then so we started working with our Rules Review Commission. Luckily, pesticides was a little bit ahead of us. And I'll have to say we were very fortunate, and the attorney with the Rules Review Commission was already familiar with the process. And there were some changes, as I'm sure you're aware, and a little bit of back and forth, but we were very fortunate in that it was, as far as the rules review process, it was a very smooth process. So we're very thankful for that. So here we are on number 3, implementation. We're here, 2025. Again, we started 2017 and we've made it to May of 2025. And again, I'd like to thank our C&T staff, our enforcement staff team and staff here, NCPMA, and the Structural Committee for everybody's work since 2017. So a timeline of the rules review, rules revisions implementation and enforcement in North Carolina. So we had the rules review process. They became effective or published on February 1 of 2025. We're going to hand out sorry, I'm back. Had to grab something. So we're going to hand out we have hard copies of the rules. You will notice it says as of February 2025. That's when they were published in the North Carolina Administrative Code. New hard copy rules are yellow. Old copies were pink. We used to say it's Pepto-Bismol pink. So we're done with this, but it is good if you want to hold on to compare, the old rules to the new rules. But the rules also are available electronic on our website, and we have a few slides explaining all the information that can be found on our website. But we do have plenty of hard copies available as well. But again, they were published February 1, 2025, and we began outreach and notification to PMPs back in March Hopefully you are on our website frequently, for other matters as well. But we have a page specifically for rules revision. We sent out an email. We included an insert in our renewals, and now we're doing these training workshops. So we're doing all we can to get the word out as far as these rules revision. And we're going to hold a total of 7 workshops or seminars. This is number 6. We started in May in Wilmington. We went to Dallas, Morganton, Greenville, Fayetteville yesterday, Raleigh in person and virtual, and Greensboro next week. So we've tried to cover as much of the state as we can with this presentation. Also, this presentation will be available on our website if you would like to share it with your office staff to go into more detail, specifically for your office. Or also, and we have some slides as well, you can contact your area inspector or field manager as well. We'll be more than happy to continue to do outreach. So we still have some time until July 1, but it is coming up because we're going to begin enforcement then. But please, we hope you've already taken a look at the 9 rules. There's a total of 9 rules that have been revised. And we're going to go over those today. But if you have any questions going forward, we'd be more than happy to talk to you and discuss any questions. All right. Just one more slide for me, and then I'm going to hand off to Richard, and we'll get down to the fun stuff. I know y'all excited. But just a general overview of our rules implications. It's pretty much related to supervision and training requirements. We are fortunate in North Carolina that we've had our registered technician training program in place since 1998 or 99. So a lot of training components were already in place here. Of course, we're going to be revising them to update, the RT program according to the C&T plan requirements. However, a lot of these components were already in place, right? The on-the-job training rule, 24 hours of on-the-job training in each phase. That's always been a requirement. The workbook has to be completed and signed off on, and it's 160 pages or something. But anyways, approximately. And then the RT school, is the final step. And we've always issued a certificate of completion for that. I know a lot of you might have in-house RT equivalent training. There's a certificate for that as well. So luckily that part was already covered because EPA refers to folks who are not licensed or certified as non-certified applicators. That's EPA's term. For us, that would be in North Carolina for structural would be registered technicians. So that part was already in place as far as some of the training requirements. However, there are additional training requirements, and we're going to go over that. But as far as your overall day-to-day operations, we feel like the overall impact is going to be minimal. There is going to be a lot of record keeping requirements of training, and a lot of you are probably already doing that. However, you may need to revise some of that and also make it readily available for our inspectors. So that is something that's going to be a change. There are some training requirements there for non-certified or RTs. There's an annual training requirement. Every year, a registered technician is going to have to be trained on is basically applying the equipment used in applying pesticides. And there's a video available, and we're going to put it on our website about PPE, applying pesticides correctly. Y'all might remember that if you took the core exam or the core manual. I will say that pesticides section, they have this video available on their website, and it's for we are going to have it on our structural website as well, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. We're going to edit it for structural pest control non-certified applicators in North Carolina. There's also a one-time training requirement for current CAs and licensees, and again, we have a slide for that. So basically, supervision requirements, training requirements for RTs and a one-time training requirement for CAs and licensees are the major changes. But again, a lot of this, you're probably already covering this. It's just a matter of maybe revising it and document it for our future inspections. All righty. Well, I will hand off to Mr. Richard Willis. Richard's going to go over our 9 rules that were revised. And again, they're on our website. Don's done a really good job of putting each rule on our website. You can find them there. And I'll hand off to Richard. And again, we'll have plenty of time for questions at the end.
Good morning. Again, I'm Richard Willis. I'm the Eastern District Supervisor for the Structural Pest Control section. And currently, as Victor said, we have 2 vacancies in our territory. So please watch our website and apply for a job. But we need help. But I thank Victor for all the leadership he's provided through the years, and our staff as well. They've done a lot of work on this. So we're fixing to get to the meat and potatoes, or if you're a vegetarian, the peas and carrots of what this program came about. So just bear with me. I've driven about 1,500 miles in the last 3 days, so my eyes might have to adjust. So the rules that were revised, basically the major changes were to the certification and training requirements, which basically we can look at that as all the training that you need to provide to initial employees, especially when it comes to applying pesticides, using proper protective equipment, those kind of things. But importantly, documentation. How are we documenting this? You know, it's one thing to say we train someone, but let's try to get to a place where we can document in writing and have the employees sign that off. So the 9 rules that were revised, most of them are just minor changes. So we can say these are an example of what they are, or the rules that were changed and where they can be found at. I won't go through each one of those because we're fixing to go through each one individually. So first we have general duties, which is applicable to both licensees and certified applicators. Before any registered technician may use any pesticide under the direct supervision of the licensee or the CA, the licensee or CA must ensure that the registered technician has completed the registered technician program rule, and 2, that the registered technician has been instructed within the last 12 months in the operation of any equipment used for mixing, loading, transferring, or applying pesticides, and that the RT is 18 years old. The last part of that, number 3, that the registered technician must be 18 years old, is a new change. So note that. As Victor said, our registered technician program was already implemented, covered a lot of things that the C&T rule changes required. So your 24 hours of on-the-job training may include a lot of this mixing, loading, and applying of pesticides. Just remember, just saying they had on-the-job training doesn't go far enough. You really need to have a SOP or a job description of what that job consists of, and have the employee signed off that, hey, we were shown how to read a label. We were shown how to use PPE and what that consisted of. And have a checkbox and have the technician sign off that they were shown and trained how to do that. Registered technicians must always have access to applicable product labeling. That means if they're using a pesticide, they've got to have that pesticide labeling on the truck, or at least accessible on a device. And it needs to be a current label of that product. The registered technician must be provided with proper PPE, personal protective equipment, required by the labeling, and ensure that the equipment is being worn and used correctly for its intended purposes through training, documentation, or supervision. But I would implement that you have an SOP that describes what that process is, and have that technician sign off on that. That they know how to use their personal protective equipment for each job and when it should be required and what type of PPE is required for a particular job. There's the next, did I press it? All right. I think we're done. Just want to make sure. We got a delay here. Continuing on, the licensee or certified applicator must provide to the ARC registered technician through training the tools that are necessary to analyze a site prior to pesticide application being made and understanding when it's necessary to postpone an application to a contacting licensee for input or the certified applicator. So this goes into site conditions such as is the wind blowing 25 miles an hour that day? And if the wind's blowing 25 miles an hour, the label may not, or the label may prohibit you using that product because we want to avoid drift. We want to avoid drift and on-site or off-site contamination when using pesticides. So maybe you've got a well on site. You don't want to contaminate that well. Maybe you've got what's the superior walls? You know, if you got a superior walls type of construction, you may not be able to use a pesticide because it may contaminate a footer which could drain off site. So there needs to be site characteristics taken into consideration when you're on site. Maybe you have blooming plants on site and we have pollinators feeding on those flowering plants. So you have to be careful not to make applications to flowering plants. Those are some of the things we would consider as a site characterization to know that the technician has recognized that there are certain conditions that may prohibit him from making an application or to take caution when using pesticides when making an application. So that could be in your SOP. You know, we've covered this with the technician on what to address before he makes an application to a site, that he has went to the site, observed it, calculated how much chemical he may need for that site, you know, do a site plan. So examples of site-specific training would be pest identification even, damage assessment, construction types, control and management options, other factors such as surface groundwater, runoff potential, soil types, the weather forecast, endangered species may even come into play. Drift, flowering plants, anything that could affect an environmental or personal protection of people. You know, maybe a person shouldn't be on site when you make an application. Those things need to be assessed and addressed before making a chemical application. The licensee or the certified applicator must be physically present at the use site when required by the product labeling. So you need to check the label of the product to see what's required if there needs to be direct supervision involved. The licensee or certified applicator must ensure through training, documentation, or inspections that before each day of use, pesticide application equipment is in proper operating condition as intended by the manufacturer. Examples or an example template for the equipment checklist will be available on our website, and we'll show you an example of that in the next slide. And you should design yours to reflect all application equipment that your registered technician uses each day. So each day before your technician goes out to do a job, he should check to see that his application equipment is in working order. You know, are the hoses in good shape? Is the pressure gauge working? Is there anything leaking? Make sure he has all the proper PPE. These are just some of the examples of what must be done each day before use. Now, we don't consider that the technician has to fill out this form every day. This form is just to show an example of what he must do before he goes out to work that day or through the day before he makes the application, things may change. But you could go through this once a month with the technician, have him sign it, or if you think once a year is good enough. But you must do this annually at the minimum. But I would just make sure that they're doing this each day by doing a spot check to make sure that he's addressing these issues before it hits the road, because equipment wears down and get nicks and cuts on equipment. You need to have the proper PPE, even such things as having spill control. Now, you got to be prepared for today's work. So we had a handout here if you're on in person, but we want to give credit to
Yep, thank you, Richard. Again, this is the example template. We would like to acknowledge PMI with Billy Tash and Dr. Lucas of their company. They gave us permission to share this with everyone on our website. It is an example, but however, as Richard mentioned, it is a very good example of a template. We would strongly recommend that you utilize something very similar, or you may already have something in place with your company, but take a look at it and Richard will go over some of the different parts of it. But it is important that the register, that your applicator RT realizes that every day they need to be kicking the tire, so to speak, checking their tanks, checking their equipment. And you'll see there's an acknowledgement statement at the bottom, which basically the RT will sign off on, acknowledging that hey, I am checking my equipment every day and it's in good working order. If I find a problem, I'm going to contact my manager, and I understand failure to comply with the document will result in policy violation and will go on my company record. So of course you can tailor, it to your company needs, but it is good to have this acknowledgement. And as Richard said, we don't expect a licensee or manager every day to check every single truck. That would be impossible. However, the CA or licensee is responsible for training technicians and keeping records of that on how to check their equipment. So you need to have that and have records of that. And then if you implement a template like this, then it puts it on the technician to look out to check their equipment, PPE. And again, we have a slide later on. It's for their protection, for worker protection and environmental protection as well. And, but I'll hand it back off to Richard.
Thank you, Victor. One thing we need to consider is we talked earlier about documentation. So you need to keep these signed documents signed by the registered technician. You can keep it on a PDF, but we ask for records. This is the kind of things we like to see. And as Victor said, it's to help protect your company as well, because sometimes you might get called into a court situation, which no one likes. But if you can provide supporting documentation where it's shown that you've been training guys and they've signed off and acknowledged it, it helps protect your company as well. So as far as the daily equipment evaluation checklist, we don't require this to be done daily as far as a signed copy, but the technician should be doing this every day before he starts on his job. So if we look at the first one, it says fleet vehicle. All mechanical components of the vehicle are in good condition or working conditions. So, I mean, he's maybe checking the tires or checking his flashers, something to show that he is actually checking to see that his equipment's working. Does it have a good spill kit in his truck? Does it have enough spill absorbent to clean up for if he has a spill for all the chemicals on his truck? He's got a 100-gallon tank. He's got to have at least enough spill control to cover a 100-gallon tank plus whatever other pesticides he has on his truck. Does he have a fire extinguisher? Is there personal protective equipment available for the technician, such as nitrile gloves, boots, respirators, dust mask, gloves, those type of materials? Does it have a good working flashlight or moisture meter? So you can adjust this to your specific company and what your company does. And there's other things on here, such as Actisol machine. And that could be an example of other things that may be added to this. So you just adjust this to your specific company. Ooh, how far to go back? Oh, I just went one. It looked like it skipped 3. So the registered technician training must be completed prior to anyone being able to make a pesticide application. So this is already being done under our registered technician program, right? You're supposed to have 24 hours of on-the-job training in each specific phase. So some of this should already be covered under our current program where before any pesticide is mixed or applied, they have to complete a workbook and 24 hours of on-the-job training. So the registered technician will be required to attend annual training in addition to that initial registered technician training program. So currently we fall under our rules covers registered technician training. But in addition to that, now annually, the registered technician is going to have to go through some training and document it that you've covered things such as mixing, applying, using PPE, pesticides. So this is an annual event that has to be done every year. So if you put it into a standard operating procedure, you can have him cover labels, mixing, applying, identifying insects, checking your equipment. Those are just examples that the technician signs off on every year that you can document and have it in his file. Now, those are the kind of things our inspectors will be looking for to see that you're properly documenting and training technicians. So the annual technician training will soon be made available on our website. So this will also be made available as a module or a PowerPoint presentation. Victor's going to speak briefly on that.
Yeah, I mentioned this earlier. It's a video for the annual training, and it was created. It's actually a national training video that PERC created. That's the Pesticide Educational Resources Collaborative. And I mentioned that the pesticide section already has it on their website. If you want to take a look, if you go to their licensing and certification page, I think you'll see the video, and there's a certificate with it. We're going to have one very similar on our website, but if you wanted a sneak peek now, you can go there and take a look at it. But it's about a 35, 45-minute video, and it's for all pesticide applicators, structural ag use as well. And we will have that on our website. It's a video, about 45 minutes. And we're going to implement that into our RT program as well. If you have in-house equivalent programs, it will need to be implemented, that video, beginning July 1. But we are going to have that available, and we're going to maybe tweak it a little bit for structural pest control applicators in North Carolina. But again, as Richard mentioned, there will be a certificate of completion. So make sure that you keep a record of that. And it's, it's a responsibility again of the licensee or certified applicator to monitor this training, make sure it's being done, and then keep a copy of that record. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. There's an additional requirement that is already being met. So it says the registered technician eligibility record keeping requirement. So since our structural pest control rules currently maintains attendance records and issues, and our licensing department issues a certificate of completion for our registered technician school. So that's already being done for you, that once the registered technician has attended our workshop or our training, then once you apply for that registered technician's card, then we will issue you a certificate of completion. So this is currently being done by our licensing section. So this requirement is being met. However, you need to keep copies of that, of all registered technician training records, and make sure they are available for our inspectors. So this is something that is already in place. So just when you apply for the card, once he's attended the workshops, then that certificate will be issued through us. So you just need to keep a copy of that. There is you want to talk about this, David? So I'm going to turn this over to David Proposio. Talking about
exams, right?
Unauthorizes it.
So with the new C&T plans changed, exams are also going to change. There is some new language in there for unauthorized assistance. Unauthorized basically means it's not authorized from our division, whereas authorized means it's authorized by our division, right? Real simple. Okay, so, we allow some authorized assistants, those with disabilities under the ADA Act, people that need translation services, or maybe some people just need help reading the exam properly. We provide those services when we have the availability. Those are some new languages inside the rule 302. FIFRA requirements for the exams. The new CNT plan calls for two new categories. One is just about what you're learning here, the supervision by the CAs for the RT, registered technicians. There'll be some new questions in there involved with that. There will be also new questions involving maintaining restricted use chemicals. How do you maintain the security of those? Things like that. That's under a professionalism category, and that's a new category for these exams. The core exam, for those that don't know, if you take a pesticide section core exam, it will go across both sections. It'll count for the structural as well. But if you were to take the structural core exam, it would not count for the pesticide section. We're going to try to make that one core. Avoid the confusion, right? For those with ornamental, it could help you. And structural, it'll help you. But if anybody's got to take a CA exam, you might want to take it now because it's going to change. Core exam we're going through right now. We have to go through the manuals. There's only 2 chapters completed right now, and it's been 8 months, if that gives you a timeline. So I might be retired by the time that happens. But after we're done with the manual, we go to the, NC Cooperative Extension Service is the one that's helping with the manual. They're the main functionaries on that. So license exams, not going to change that much. We have to make some changes with fumigation just to keep it updated. But that's about it. Okay.
Thank you. Want to continue with this too, David?
You got it. I think Richard wants a little break. So, recertification rule, you'll be happy to know there's no changes as far as your credit requirements. It's still the same. If you are licensed or certified in P&W, you have a 5-year recertification period. You have to get 5 credits in P. Say if you have P&W, for example, 5 in P, 5 in W, and 5 in anything else. Licensees and non-commercial certified applicators must get at least 1 credit in 4 out of 5 years. You can only miss 1 year. Commercial certified applicators, 3 out of 5 years, but the credit total is still the same. You're still, if you do not get credits and you like to retest, you still can retest between January and June of the last 6 months of your 5-year period. That's still the same. There was a little bit of language cleanup, but there is one, please take note of this. We mentioned it earlier. There is an annual training requirement beginning July 1 for all certified applicators and licensees. Excuse me? Yes, there's a one-time annual training requirement beginning July 1. Once you attend it, then you don't have to attend it again. The reason being is because you were licensed or certified under our old plan. So this was a compromise with EPA. Instead of requiring everybody to retest, which there was some conversations about that. And so thank you, EPA. Give us a little pat on the back, right? That would have been a nightmare. So this is a compromise to attend this training. We will make it available on our website, similar to we mentioned the annual training video for RTs. We feel like there's a national training for that as well. If not, we're going to work on something here. And you can show that at your office as well. So you'll have, at least if you begin your new 5-year recertification period, you'll have 5 years to complete it, right? If you expire in 2026 with your 5-year recertification period, you will have 1 year. So you would have 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 years, but you'll have plenty of time. Again, it's probably going to be maybe 1 to 2 hours There'll be a video. And as we've have emphasized, please, there'll be a certificate. Make sure you keep a copy of that in your records in case EPA comes to the states. Hey, I want to see this. We can, go to you and you can provide that to us. But if you have any questions about that at the end, please let us know.
Thanks for making that easy, Victor. So registered technician ID card training materials. References that requirements of the rule 10101B4B must be met before applying for issuance or renewal of registered technician card, which is complete all requirements of rule 0.0313. The registered technician must be instructed in the safe operation of all equipment used for mixing, loading, transferring, or applying pesticides. The annual RT training video, and RT must be 18 years old. This is just reiterating that the registered technician must be 18 years old, and annually you must give some training and document to every technician that they are properly being trained in the safe operation of their equipment and mixing, loading of pesticides. So if you come up with a standard operating procedure or a JSA, a job skill that describes what's going on with each phase of how they apply pesticide, check for site characterizations, what are some things they need to be on the lookout for that before they make an application, such as if there are well on site or the flowering plants on site, how to properly calculate the mixture of chemicals being used. All these things can be part of your training program that the technician is checking off on and signing that they've been trained on this mixing and loading of pesticides, how to use personal protective equipment, how to select the proper protective equipment. All those things come into play. So this has to be done annually, as we said, and it can be done by the licensee, another certified applicator, or your designated trainer, for your program. So all those things just need to be signed off by a certified licensee or certified applicator or your trainer. And the technician signs that piece of paper saying they've been trained on this annually. So it's one time, it's an annual requirement that they have to go through. So like I said, training and documentation, trust and verify. We always ask for paperwork, right? So, if you go to a court, they're going to want to see paperwork. So just helps protect you, because you never know when a technician might come back and accuse you of not training them to do something. So it's all to help you as well. The licenses issued to persons under 18. This rule has been revised through the following: no license certificate or certified applicator's identification card or registered technician's identification card shall be issued to any person who is less than 18 years old. So what's underlined there is the change in the rule that no one is to be working under the age of 18 now. And no, we're not going to grandfather people in either. So this is a requirement that must be implemented and followed. Under the wood destroying organism records, there's no major revisions under this rule. They took out some old antiquated language. There's a reference added for FIFRA record keeping requirements for licensees and non-certified applicators. There's references added for restricted use pesticide, registered use pesticides as defined in our rules. And there's a reference on our website. If you go to our website, there's a link where the pre-treatment record form can be found. So basically, the lawyers wanted us to be able to tell you on our website where all the information can be found for under FIFRA or registered use pesticides or any kind of form that's required by us. We've got to tell you where to find it. So that's basically what it relates to. Under written records for household pest control, basically the same thing. There's no major revisions. We had to add a reference where it's kept at the FIFRA record keeping requirement is found under Code of Federal Regulations 171.303, we had to tell you where that was being implemented from, where it can be found. So that's just us in the rule telling you where these requirements can be found in the Code of Federal Regulations. Under written records of fumigation, there is a reference to record keeping requirement. There again, under the Code of Federal Regulations, this is where it's found at. Also, what was added was, what is new is the time has to be documented of when the fumigation is required, when it began. So it says the date and time of fumigation application is now required for the record keeping requirements for fumigations performed by licensees and non-commercial certified applicators. So previously it was the date, but now you have to record both the date and the time. Under the financial responsibility, they took out old language and they put in just some minor rules or minor language. So there's no major responsibility or major changes. So final thoughts and to-do list. All the 9 rules with revisions are easily located on our website. We'll show you where that's at. We have hard copies and electronic copies on our website of the rules available. I advise you to go to our website because the hard copies are very small print. So it's worth your while to go to our website and print them off, or at least review them. Train all your appropriate registered technicians, certified applicators, and managers on these revisions prior to July the 1st, 2025. So our inspectors are going to start implementing that this could, we're going to start implementing that we can charge deviations if these aren't being followed. And I'm sure we're going to, just help do some more training as I go through the offices, because this is new to everyone and we all love new changes. So we're just trying to make sure you're starting to train and document. The annual registered technician training and one-time training, the annual training requirement for licensees and certified applicators should eventually be available on our website. So stay tuned. As Victor talked about, there's going to be a module that you can view to meet that one-time requirement for all licensees and certified applicators. So make sure you keep records of documentation of training and certification for our inspectors to be able to view. They should be asking for these. Our registered technician program already consists of, on the introduction to applying pesticides correctly in the registered technician program, there's already places where the certified applicator or your trainer signs, the licensee signs, and the technician signs. So you should keep those available for requirements for this rule, and also in case you have to prove to OSHA or have to go to court that you're providing appropriate training for your technician. So mark your calendars for future annual training and one-time training requirements to stay in compliance. As Victor said, during the recertification period, you've got to meet that one-time viewing of that module of the the annual training.
No,
for
just a one-time training
for
CAs and licensees.
the one-time training for CAs and licensees will be available online and has to be done during your recertification period. So as Victor said, your recertification period may be 1 year or it could be up to 5 years. So just make sure you pay attention to that. If you got any further questions, contact your inspector or your field manager. If you got any questions about these training requirements, we'll be glad to answer your questions. The daily equipment checklist is available as a hard copy, or there's an electronic version online. You customize this to fit your program, or what your technicians are doing out in the field and what equipment that you have. So just adjust this to your individual company needs. And as I said, it's a daily requirement for the technician to do, but he doesn't have to fill out a hard copy every day, right? I mean, if you want to, that's fine. but it's just something that he needs to sign either annually or monthly that, yes, I am going to do this, and he should do it daily. So July the 1st of 2025 is the date that the division will begin enforcement. So the next 1 to 2 months is the next time to address any questions and prepare your staff. And we'll be glad to help you through that process. So if you have any further questions, here's our email addresses. I'm sure you have our phone numbers as well. Brett Willis, Roger Bryan, Victor Lennon, or someone at headquarters should be happy to assist you.
Just a quick note for people online and here in person, we will have the slide presentation as well as the video of this presentation available on our website in about a week or so. So you will have access to this presentation again in case you have questions about what was presented today. At that point, if you have questions here in the audience or online, if you're online, please put it in the chat. Here in person, please raise your hand so we get a mic to you so that everyone can hear. And if we don't get to your question at the end of this presentation, please send your questions to either don.daly@ncagr.gov or david.proposio@ncagr.gov.
So we have any questions in the room? All right. Yeah, I'm pointing.
So for the annual documentation of the training, you're going to leave that up to our discretion as to what that looks like, what that form looks like as far as the documentation, or will there be something you're providing us?
We'll provide one.
Okay.
And it will go with there. If you want to go to the pesticides website, the video's there and there's a certificate of completion. It'll be very similar. We're going to revise it, but we will have one available for you. Thank you.
You guys, well done, Richard. So 2 questions about the RT training. The first one is, you had mentioned a 45-minute video that will be posted online. Is that 45-minute video intended to be the standalone training that's completed every year, that all they need is 45 minutes to watch a video, get a certificate, or is that meant to be a component of a much more comprehensive training program that they're supposed to do every year?
It's the way the rules read. It's an annual, just a one-time training by itself, standalone.
No, sorry, for the RTs. For the RT, there was mention of an RT video, I think in the slides, like 45 minutes long or something.
Yeah, that's the annual training for non-certified. Or
Yes.
Yes.
And my question is, Victor, is that all that they're required to do every year is watch that 45-minute video, or is that meant to be a component
Yes.
of more training?
Yes, that is
Okay.
it.
Okay, cool. Great.
Oh, go ahead, Richard.
I'm not sure I understand your question, Chris, but I mean, your program, that video is meant to address certain specifics, but your program, if you're referring to equipment used or personal protective equipment used, you might have to address that individually.
Okay.
Right, because the name of the game is to make sure these technicians are trained in appropriate use of chemicals and equipment and personal protective equipment. So I would say your company probably needs to go beyond that video.
Okay.
As well. I mean, I'd have to see the video first.
Yeah, but to me, the annual training requirement of the rule is just that video. But yes, there's other components as we went over, as far as day-to-day, the equipment use that has to be followed. But as far as, I think that's what you're asking, the annual training requirement is basically that video.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So for those who don't know, I'm Dr. Christopher Hayes from NC State,
Okay.
in Mike Wadvogel's role, but that was the question of,
Okay.
Is it a way that can it, I guess the second question is, can that be done outside of the individual companies? Like, is there a way for either NC State or NCDA to partner with companies in helping provide that training and certification and documentation of that annual RT training? Or is that something that you intend to be done, ideally we want it done by the company?
The way it is now is one and done, because it is the responsibility of the licensee and CA to do that training. So, and it could be tweaked as we go on, but for now, beginning July 1, it's a one and done. All right. Thank you.
My question is about the RT training as well. You said that the certification will have, or that there's going to be a certificate. is that going to be linked to their like file number for the RTs? Or like how is that being tracked? If there's a certificate, is it per video watched? Like I'm just trying to figure out the.
So for the NCDA and CS-led programs, that video will be incorporated into our current RT school. And for our equivalency providers, they will be required to add that in addition to what they're currently offering at their offices. So, and the certificate that you get from NCDA and CS for attending our school will include obviously your viewing of that video because we're forcing you to watch that video as part of our school. And the new equivalency certificates will have a notification box on there that the licensee does have to acknowledge that they did present that video to their RT candidates while they're doing their in-house RT program.
But with the recurring credits, like since that's an annual.
That's
thing
just
that
something
needs
that
to
you
be
just have to keep
done.
part of the record. So that's the initial onboarding part, but in the annual training, whatever, you should document that and keep that as part of their file or their record as well. There's not going to be any notification that you required to give the state every year that you've trained these people. But if your inspector does come as part of a routine or investigation or something like that, they may require you to present that information that you did provide this training to them. So it's a requirement that you should keep on in-house yourself, but it's not something you need to forward to us on an annual basis.
Okay, I just wanted as far as like tracking and everything.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify, going back to Chris's question. So we have our, when somebody's hired, and I saw a chat question, you have still have 75 days to obtain an RT card. They have to complete the RT program, right? All those three components. Then once they do that, then you apply for the RT card. Then we also, with the new rules, there is annual training that has to be done once a year. So when I said one time a year, there's an annual training requirement for those registered technicians. So they will not only see that video initially because it's going to be in our RT program slide and also in your equivalent training. So they're going to see it then, but then after that, once a year, there's an annual training and we're going to have that video and it's about the 45-minute one. So I just wanted to make sure that's clear. So it is a little confusion, especially at the beginning here, right? Because we have some, have to get it implemented. But I just want to make sure we're all understand that. Everybody good? Thank you. Any more questions in the room?
On the one time for CAs and licensees, how is the record going to be on that when that comes out?
There'll be we're not exactly sure, but there'll be a form. It'll probably be similar to the form for the annual RT training, but it will just, we'll have that available for you. And it will just, you'll put your similar probably to a credit, where you sign up for credits. It'll have your name, the date, your L type, your file number, and we'll have it at the top. We'll have the title of that training, but we'll have that available for you. We're going to try to make it as easy and as seamless as possible. Reason being because that requirement is actually in the C&T plan. It's not a rule requirement. So we want to make sure that we're covering what EPA requires. So we'll have all that information available for you and that certificate.
So most likely you'll have a form where we can put our file numbers and stuff and then watch the video and that will.
Yep. But we will ask you to keep your record of that, right? You won't have to send it in to our headquarters, but you'll need to keep it there at your office. Sound good?
Sorry, a question about that one then with the licensing and certification. If is there going to be like a portal that you log into that officially credits you for watching the video and getting that one time?
Good question. We can do that. Don's our credit specialist, so.
Sorry.
But more than likely, it depends on like, again, it's probably going to be maybe an hour or 2 hour, but, yes, I feel like we probably can award a credit for that, right, Don? But I'll let.
I just meant more.
So- no, I know what you're asking, Samantha. So, at this point, we haven't determined how we're going to do that. Whether we're just going to have the video on our website for you to watch without having to log into a specific portal or some kind of specific information to capture that stuff, and then you would just fill out your completion certificate afterwards with the information, or if we're going to have like a more secure portal where you have to log in. We haven't made that determination yet. Logistically, it is more complex for us to do that secure portal login. So we just have to see, because we want to get that video out as soon as possible, because there are people that are going to have to watch that video before June of 26th. So at this point, at the very least, it's going to be a and all the stuff's going to be communicated on the main page of our Structural Pest Control section homepage. But at this point, we may slightly be leaning towards just a video that you would just watch straight off the website, as opposed to something you would have to log in for. But that could change.
Question. So all of the changes you're talking about here today, will there be a specific site or section in your website that we can go to instead of going from place to place?
Yes, go ahead, Don.
So in the main section homepage, there's a current events or a news section at the top of that thing. There may not be individual links to those in there, but there may be a link to a page that does reference all of this material. Right now, there is a header at the top of our homepage that did talk about the rules revision with the 9 changes and the sign up for this session today and all the other sessions and whatever. So we may not do that alert at the top, but there will be something in our current events or news section at the top of our homepage next to the mission statement that may redirect to that. But all of the forms and all of the videos and stuff like that will also be embedded in other parts of the page, but there may just be one central clearinghouse for all that information you could go to for all of the C&T rule changes.
The videos are not on there yet, but we're hopeful to have them there by July 1. Right, Don? At least, definitely the annual training for RTs, because that's a rule enforcement, and that's not going to take us long. The annual training might be a little bit longer, but licensee or CA will have at least a year or 5 years, but we will eventually have that on pretty soon as well.
Yeah, since that annual training, we're going to kind of borrow from PERC and pesticide section for the non-certified applicators or the RTs. Since that's mostly made, that's going to be a quick addition to the website. We didn't want to make any changes to the website or add these things, whatever, until we did all of these information sessions. The last one is next Wednesday. So we're hoping for a tentative June 1st, the first week of June or so, to start building all of the changes in there. Obviously, the forums and and the web and the videos we already have are very quick additions, but some of the actual construction of the one-time certification training and those kind of things are going to take us a little bit longer. But as we do those, we do recommend people keep going to our website to look for changes and to find those updates as they do happen. Also, if people can give us during your renewal packets your updated personal cell phone number and email address so we can blast these out. We did send a targeted email to a lot of people about these upcoming changes. A lot of people did not get that because we don't have their email address on file. So that is a requirement. So please forward that information to us as part of the renewal process so we can capture your updated information so we have it so we can send targeted information or news blast out to you so you can be made aware of what's going on and the changes that are being updated.
Thank you, Don. Any more questions in person? We have another one. We did see a chat question online asking if there's any charge for the videos. No charge. Your tax dollars at work. So
super quick for you. This is mostly for you, Don. This video, the one for the RTs, is that something that we can potentially get made available so that we can embed it in training material that we already have, like a Trainual platform? Is it something that we can get and embed there?
So all the videos that we do post on our website are through from the Structural Pest Control section through my department YouTube channel. So you can always just do direct links off the YouTube channel and embed those in your programs as well, if that's what you want to do. That is just a requirement for the framing of our website, is that we do have to use them through a YouTube channel. So you can go to my department YouTube channel, which all the videos are hosted on, that you can just do direct links from that.
any more questions in person? David, any questions from the chat? Do you want to?
Unanswered.
Okay.
The question is, what if an RT only does inspections and does not provide any treatments? Will they still need the annual RT training? The answer is yes.
Yes. So although a lot of the rules were, pesticide application related PPE, the RT requirement is for sales and inspections as well, right? That's in our law. So it would be as far as the RT card requirements, yes, it would be for those folks as well. Any more questions? So hopefully everybody signed the roster to get their credit. Do you need to make an announcement for online credit? 1G credit?
So all the people online, we should capture your login information for people that have logged into the system with your information. For all of our groups, if you're still hanging on, if you want a group of people to get credit for this presentation, we do require you in the chat to put the name of your company, your branch location, the city that branch is in, as well as the individuals that have attended and their credential information in that chat, so we can have that information. So if you want to just send that to us, that way we can get that information and we can give them the 1G credit. Otherwise, we can only give credit to the people that are actually logged into this presentation on Teams today, so we don't know who your group is. So just send us those lists if you have a group of people in your office that are watching at the same time, so we can put that information in our system and get you credit for that attendance today.
All right, well, that concludes our presentation. Again, if you have any questions, you can email Don or David. We'll see any unanswered questions on the chat. We'll be addressing those as well. But thank you all for your attendance, and we wish you well. Take care.